File Checker is an application that is used for quality control on your FDOT project. File Checker is launched from the FDOT State Kit external to Civil 3D. If you go find the folder that is installed on your desktop for the State Kit and open that, you will find File Checker in the listing of applications that can be run. File Checker tries to remember the previous project that you've worked on, and you can open it up directly, or you can open the project you're interested in by coming to the File drop-down and selecting the project. I'll navigate to my projects and select the one I want to work on. Let me clean up the display a little bit, and I'll go ahead and maximize this window. The layout of the interface has several different panes, and you'll see those displayed here. And you'll also see a series of buttons across the top of the display, and depending upon which button you have selected for which general task that you're doing, you'll also get a series of different subtasks that appear in this portion of the display. Let's start with the directories task at the top. The first thing we see is this is the typical FDOT directory structure that is expected. You'll notice that some of the directory names are shown in green and some of them are shown in red. Likewise, we see the current project that we're pointing at represented in this particular pane. The first thing we should notice as we're looking at the different colors is that some of the directories may not be in our standard structure. In the panes, we see that this is the standard FDOT directory structure. Some of the directory entries are in red, some of them are in green. The green ones indicate that in our project directory structure, these folders are available, and the ones shown in red are folders that are missing. We can see here the missing folders are also repeated. Even though these are in red, they do not necessarily indicate an error, because in digital delivery it is alright to have folders missing. If we go to the next tab, non-standard folder names, we see that our project has two non-standard folders. One is this 30% plans folders that we also see here in red. The other one is the My Space folder. And the reason these are shown in red is to alert the user that these are non-standard names. The 30% plans is non-standard because it contains both a special character and a space, and the My folder is non-standard because it contains a space in the folder name. Also, very long folder names greater than 16 characters would also show up. If we go to invalid folder names by clicking the tab down here, we see the reason explained, spaces in the folder names, and spaces and special characters in the folder names. The next tab is the drawing file tab. We go to the drawing file tab, we see a lot of drawing files by file names indicated in an amber color. With the status it says verify. The reason why these are showing up in amber is because the software expects files of particular initial characters to appear in particular folders. For example, this particular one might not normally be in the drainage subfolder of a project. It may normally be somewhere else. So it's in amber just to alert the user to verify that these files are located in their proper folders. If we go down here and check the button Show All Files, we'll see that some of them are in amber and some of them are in green. The ones that are in green are in their expected folder. The ones in amber aren't in their expected folder, but this may not necessarily be an error, and that is why it is alerting the user to go take a look at the information. The next tab we have is the quality control reports. The software goes out there and examines all the files in the project directory, and it finds any file with a text extension that is a quality control report. We see we have one here called QC Inspector Reports.txt located in this folder, and if we select over here, we'll find the software actually found two different quality control reports. In this particular quality report showing, we see that all the files that were located in this particular quality control report had a 100% CAD QC compliance, and therefore they all pass. In this previous report, we see that some of these are in red. The first one we see here has a file that is only 90% compliant with CAD quality control, and it is a critical file, so therefore it should have been greater than 95% compliant with CAD QC. Down here we see another file that is also only 90% compliant, but it passes, and it passes because it wasn't a critical file. But you can look at this, and the information that is displayed here is derived from these two text files. The critical file report indicates indicates which files are critical. Again, we see these in amber because these files aren't in their expected locations. But again, this may not be an error and is just to indicate to the user to verify that these files are placed in their proper folders. The next tab is the project tab, and it basically is giving us specifics about some additional files that are in the project. The first report that is being generated is the duplicate names report. So it is looking at files with duplicate names but different content. Here we see this particular file located in the My folder and also in the roadway folder. It has the same file name in different folders, but if we look at the hash code for that file, we see that the content of the file is different based upon two different hashes of these two different files. Same thing with this QC inspector report. The topo file actually is the same file because we see that the hashes are the same. But in this case, for this file, we see that they're the same name but actually different content. So this could be resolved many different ways, potentially by renaming these files. Let's go to the invalid file names. So if we look here, we have 3 files that are reported as being invalid. The 2 at the bottom are invalid. First one is because it has 0 length, and then the second one because it has spaces in the file name. Again, this file, the 0 length file, should probably be deleted from the project, and the one with all the spaces should probably be renamed. The one at the top is showing as invalid, but in amber, just because it's a very large file and there may be an issue with the file being so large. The user should verify whether that file is indeed valid or not. The duplicate data tab shows files that are the same but potentially different file names. Here we have 2 that are the same file name, but it appears they are copied into 2 different directories. And one or the other file should probably be eliminated because there is duplicate information. The miscellaneous tab has any other file information that it may detect, and you should review this report. In this particular project, we didn't have it. Let's go to the distribution tab. The file distribution tab basically tells us where our data is in the project by percentage of overall file size for the project and by the number of files. We see in this particular project, which is our data shortcuts folder, we have 195 files, which represent almost 60% of our total project size. Again, if there's anything that looks out of the ordinary, that should be investigated. The next tab is the search tab, and the search tab allows us to search for files by file name, filter by file extension, to search for text within files that it can read text out of, and you can also use regular expressions in your search. If you don't know what regular expressions are, they're basically different ways of doing wildcards, and if you click this little help button, some of the common regular expressions are shown in the help. The last tab is the reports tab, and what it's used to do is to create a report of all the different things that we've been looking at as we traverse these tabs. So we see that we had a directory structure tab that we can get some information on what we saw when we were back here in directories. Likewise, we have the project files tab, which will have information here and some of the drawing file information, and then so forth with the other information that we see here. So we can check or uncheck each one of these different components of the report and then create a report. The report is a web page, and it's just called filechecker.htm. It could be renamed anything we want. We can go into our project and place it wherever we want, and once we select what we have in our report, we hit create. The report is going to be created, and we can tell it where we want it. Typically it can be in the root of our projects, or we might want to put it under admin or perhaps under data. And when I click and create the report, we're going to see this HTML page generated. It'll have the date and the time that the report was generated, give us what the project path, and then all the information that we saw in the previous tabs will be amalgamated and put into this HTML file that indicates the quality of our report. Because HTML is text, we can go edit the HTML file with any text editor that we want and add additional notes if there's some things we want to communicate to anybody reviewing our project. And that can be added to the HTML as well.